Let's go ahead and take a look at number 10, parameters and results. All right, we're going to talk more about functions. So we've called functions where we say do something and then parentheses. Notice we've also called the print function, which we pass in a string that ends up printing to the console. So here this has a value. Now the question is, how do we do that ourselves? Let's go next. Here's a reminder of how we've created functions. We start with the func keyword. We say hello Johnny, parentheses, and then brace, and then we have our text or whatever we're happening inside our function. Now this is very specific. So if you call this hello Johnny, you'll always get the same result. So if you wanted to say hello to somebody else, you would have to write a new function. Now that's something we don't want to really do. We want to make this a little more generic and make it a general function. So to do that, what we do is inside the parentheses we have a name and a type annotation. And this allows us, for example, we say func hello, and then we have a name, which is this type string. Then when you call print inside your function, it says hello and name. It takes whatever value you pass in. So this is referred to, now the function has a parameter called name of type string. When you call the method, you're passing in a value. So here we've said hello, and now we're passing in the value of Maria, or hello Vikram. Let's call the function a few more times, passing in different arguments. Notice that the autocomplete pop-up tells you that the function has a string parameter called name. Let's try that. We'll say hello, and then if I tab, it's going to give me autocomplete, and now I can enter a string. Hello iPrint. Then I can also notice here it shows up in the console. Awesome. Let's try another one. Hello, and then I press tab because it's autocomplete and selects it, and I'm going to say hello YouTube. Check it out. Awesome. All right, let's try this ourselves. Let's click next. Your favorite food. We want to, now it says put the print statement above inside a function that allows you to pass in any string as an argument. When you call the function, it should look like this. And let's go ahead and try it. So we start with the func keyword, and then we're going to call this print favorite. And we need a parameter. We're going to call this food, and it is of type string. Now we do our open and close brace, and within here we now say this part here, this is the part of, this is our method, our function content. So we're going to say let favorite food equal, whoops, actually instead of saying we really don't need to repeat this. Notice how it says print my favorite food is. We actually don't need to repeat that, so I'm going to delete that. Let's go ahead and just go print, and then the sentence is my favorite food is, and then we do plus, and we just pass in the food parameter. All right, now let's call this method print, and I'm going to press tab, and I'm going to pick up food, and I'm going with my favorite, add a few exclamation points, favorite food, and it should show up here in the console. Uh-oh, it's gotten stuck. Well, if this happens, let's just go ahead and exit, quit Xcode, and then open this again, and it will take us back to where we just were. And now if we wait a second, it should, here we go, it's doing something. All right, there it is. My favorite food is pizza. Let's try another one. Print favorite, and food is, well, let's go with ice cream. There it is, ice cream. I want you to pay attention to something. Notice here if I type print favorite, and if I don't autocomplete and I just type it like this, notice that I need to include the name of the parameter. If I were just to pass in, let's say, the string, and I just said chocolate, notice what happens. First of all, it's throwing an error. And if you look at this error, it says missing argument label. And notice how, see how it wants to do that. So it's going to automatically, it's going to fix it for me. So I can double click that. So again, it's important to keep the name of the parameter whenever you call the method. I just wanted to call that out because occasionally that might happen where you want to call a method, call this function, and you think, oh, I'll just pass in the string, but it actually needs to have the label as well. Now, the question is, how do we pass in more than one value? So, passing in more values, if you want your function to take more than one value, no problem. Just list the parameters inside the parentheses with a comma. Awesome. So we have hello, we have a first name, and then a comma, last name. Very good. Okay. So notice here that you have the name and then the type and then the comma. So let's call a function this a few more times with your favorite celebrities. Now note how autocompletion tells you about both parameters, how you can use the tab key to move to the next argument. All right, let's try this. Hello, and the first name we're going to say hello Bill, and if I press tab, notice how it automatically went to the next section. I got to start typing hello Bill Nye. Notice how that works. And let's do another one. Hello. What's another celebrity we like? Oh, those famous people. Hi, Brent. Arnold, right? He's pretty famous. I'm kidding. All right, let's check it out. Next, favorite things. So the favorite food function, it was okay, but it was a little limited. Now, what if we say my favorite category of thing is my favorite? So we want to name the favorite. We want to make this, we put a print statement above inside a function that allows you to pass in one string for the category and then another string for the favorite. So we could say favorite food, favorite movie star, all kinds of things. So let's try this out. First, we'll do func, and we'll say print favorite. And the first one is category of thing, which is of type string. Put a comma, and then favorite, which is of type string. And then an open brace. There we go. Now, so here, notice how here it says we have some constants for that. We don't need to worry about this because the parameters are already right here, so I don't need to do the let category or let that. So in a function instead, I'm just going to now say print my favorite, and then we're using the the shortcut for constants in order to display within a string. So we use the backslash and then open parenthesis, and we say the parameter, which is category of thing, is, and then favorite. So now when I call this method, I'm going to say print favorite, and then I press tab. Category, I'm going to say favorite pizza, and then tab, and I'm going to call it Hawaiian. which is what? Ham and pineapple? Love ham and pineapple pizza. All right. Now, we know how to pass information in to the function. Let's see how we get the information out. So in addition to using values, functions can do the work and then hand you back a result. So when the value comes back from a function, it's called returning a value. So in order to do that, we add what we call this text arrow. So, and then the type of what the value is that's being returned. So if you look here, we say space available message, and we have two parameters, each video duration, which is of type int. Number of videos is type int, and then the text arrow, which means this will return a string. Here in the method, we have the constants, and then we have the calculation, and then we return, and here's the key word. We have a return, and we return this string. So when we call this method, notice here, if I look at the results, there's the string that it returns. So this is something that's very important. Your function can have multiple parameters, so you can have multiple items up here, but it can only return one value. So keep that in mind. So this return value can actually be used. You can assign the value to a variable or constant, and it can be used for other things. So for example, here we have these constants: desired video, holiday video count, and then we have a message. Notice this constant is video message, and we have space available, which is this function up here. So what's happening is I pass in this information, these parameters, then I return the string, and that string from this function is being assigned to this constant. See how that works? Then I can use this constant in another constant or turn it into another function. Awesome. Now let's try this ourselves. So we've developed functions that can build sentences. Now notice it says building the sentence and printing it are two separate jobs. There could be cases when you want to build the sentence but not print it to the console. You may want to do further work on the sentence or display it. Write a function that takes the category of things and favorite as arguments and returns a string. You should be able to call the function like this. Let sentence equals make favorite, and then category, and then sentence should then have the value my favorite food is cheese. Remember to use the text arrow to show a return. Alright, so we say func make favorite, and we have category of thing as the name of type string, comma, and then favorite of type string. Now in this one we want it to return a value, so we press the hyphen and then the greater than sign. Whoops, I didn't mean to type that. So we say that, and then it's going to return a type string. Now we do our opening brace. So within here, notice how obviously it keeps showing errors because it's evaluating everything we type as we type it. But I want to point out this error here. It says missing return in a function expected to return string. So when you have this return characters here and you say returning a string, the method, the function needs to return something. So in this case, we're going to say return, and let's make the string, we're going to say my favorite, favorite, and then we say category of thing. Whoop. Okay, sorry. And then is, and then we do favorite. So we've already done this before, but here we're putting it into this method. And I keep saying method, but a function and method we often use interchangeably. We'll talk more about what a real method is in another video, but for now, if I keep saying method, it's only out of habit. But a function is this self-contained thing that we've created. So now it says call your new function a few times with some different categories, assigning each result to a different constant. Why not try categories like food, movie, school subject, or band? Okay, so now let's create a constant. So we're going to say favorite food. We've already done that, but let's say we're going to assign that make favorite, and I press tab, and now I'm going to say my favorite let's go with ice cream is Moose Tracks. Moose Tracks ice cream that I like happens to be, it has like peanut butter cups in it. Good stuff. All right, let's try something else. Let's say let favorite movie is a constant, and we say make favorite, and we're going to say favorite movie is, what's my favorite movie? The Incredibles. That's my favorite. All right, very good. See how that works? So it returns a value and we assign it to a constant. Now that we have the results, we can use string interpolation to combine them into a self-introduction. Yours might look something like this. Hello, my name is Yuna. Favorite food, favorite video star. Okay. So let's try this out. I'm going to say let introduction equal hello, my name is iBrent. And then we say favorite, whoops, sorry, I made a mistake there. Open parentheses, favorite food, and then favorite what is it? Favorite movie. Hello, my name is Brent. Brent. Favorite ice cream is Moose Tracks. My favorite movie is The Incredibles. I can put some punctuation in there. I can even do like a new line. Remember that? Let's try that. Hello, my name is Moose Tracks. And then of course it runs out of space, but you know what it is. Awesome. Now let's look at kinds of functions. So when you write functions, you have 4 possible combinations of parameters and return values. Here's a summary that you might use. We have, this says no parameters or no return values. So we have like paint picture. So when we call the function that doesn't have any parameters or return a value, it's saying, I want something to happen, but I don't particularly care how it's done or what happens to it later. Now the problem with that, of course, is when you call this kind of function, you're not giving a lot of details. You're not giving enough information. It's like asking someone to paint for you, but you haven't given them any instructions. Now, the BoogieBot dance moves are an example of this type of function where we say do something and then it does it by updating it. Now we also have type of functions where you give a parameter but you don't return any values. So these functions do work that changes depending on the arguments but doesn't give anything back. For example, you can ask the artist to make a painting of a certain size and a certain color, but they says full control of the painting and will hang it wherever they like. The next example is we have this parameter where you have no parameters but it returns a value. So So this kind of function returns a value without needing any extra information. So imagine you haven't given the artist any input, so they create something entirely from their own vision. After they're done, though, they hand it back to you. So something like this, we haven't talked about this type of function, but here an example might be it gives you a random number or tells you the current date or time. And then the fourth type of function is something that you pass in a parameter and you get a return value. So again, this is based on a lot of the things that we've recently created. Now, when a function does some kind of work that's unrelated to a return value, like printing to the console or making the BoogieBot dance, the work is called a side effect. When you name a function, it's good to somehow include the side effect in the name, like left arm up. If a function has no return value, all of its work is considered a side effect. So let's see how this can help us. So when we talked about a function, we're saying we're grouping things together. So functions can take information in, they can do the work, and then they can return information. So now we can do things like building a list. Here we have a function list by adding item. We have two parameters. We have the item, we have toList, and then it returns a string. So here it returns toList plus a new line and then an item. So for example, we're saying we have list is milk, and then we add item eggs to the list, bread. And so here, before, you remember we were doing compound assignment where we're saying this plus this. Now this is a lot easier because this function takes in the parameters, does the work, and returns the information for us. Now the next thing we need to talk about is naming. So we've already talked about hello name. The problem is this function has a side effect. Remember, it says the name is printed, but it isn't clear from the name. So a function that does work should have a verb in the name. Functions in Swift should read as much like a sentence as possible. Hello name Maya is not a sentence. To address the problem, we can rename this function. So a better name would be PrintHello. But the function as a sentence would still read PrintHello name Maya, which doesn't work. So we say PrintHello to Maya would be better. So here we change the name of the function and we change the name of the parameter. So now this is easier to read because we know that it says PrintHello to and then the person. So now we have the side effect and the functions as a sentence. Let's says write them out as sentences and think about how those sentences will look as a function. For example, get the first letter of Swift would be get first letter of and then Swift. So this has another problem. Let's learn what it is and how to fix it. Parameter names and argument labels. So on the previous page we saw how to change the definition of a function. However, doing this introduced a new problem. If you have the constant name to inside the function, which we don't know what it is. See, the problem is when you have a function named to, the parameter named to, it doesn't tell us what that is. So here we can use a different name for the parameter inside the function. For example, we can say PrintHello to and then the parameter name, and then when we say print, it's saying hello name. Now notice this says the parameter has been named twice. You see the first name when you call it, and you use the second name inside the body of the function. In fact, there are better words for these two names. The names you see when calling a function and passing in one or more arguments are called argument labels. So try changing the argument label and parameter name in the function above. Notice that when you change the argument label, you have to update the places where the function is called. Also notice that when you change the parameter name, you have to update the body of the function. So here we have this print hello, and we say to, which is the parameter name, and so we're going to say print hello for, let's just say, well, for probably won't work. Let's just say, yeah, let's just say print for, and we're going to call this for friend. Well, the problem is we now need to update this. So because we use, this was called name, we need to change that to friend. And now that works. But notice here, we need to change that. Print hello for Chris. Print hello for Johnny. See how that works? Now, notice that print doesn't have an argument label. Let's find out what to do next. So when we call this, it has no argument label. Now, that's not a problem because print hello makes sense on its own. And it's awkward to say print thing to print, and thing to print doesn't add any information. The parameter in print does not have an argument label. To declare a parameter without an argument label, use the underscore where the argument label would go. In Swift, the underscore means I don't care about this item because I'm not going to use it. For example, print hello to underscore is the parameter, and then the argument name is called name of type string. So we say print hello to, call the print hello to function a few more times. Notice that the autocomplete shows the parameter name, not the argument label. So we say print hello to I rent, and print hello to, and then world. Hello world. Let's review what we've talked about. Now we've turned our functions into learning about things by letting them take in information, do stuff with it, and pass information out. We also talked about that functions should read like a sentence when you call them, and you do that by choosing names for parameters and functions. So everything is built up on functions. So now you have a clearer sense of how to use functions to your advantage. All right, in the next video we're going to talk through all of the exercises. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.